Greetings, my starseeds. Let's begin this story with what is if what you heard was the opposite. So one thing I say this is part one. How many times has the human race been duped by a savior, wanting it to be true, to come to save them? When I believe is we must save ourselves, it is our responsibility to develop our own consciousness. It is up to us to decide the fate of the timeline and how we adjust and dance to the coming changes happening on this planet. So I heard a narrative deep in the Anunnakian woods about what's propagated and who follows what and where this goes. And I have my suspicion. I'm not a politician. I'm not into polished tricks. I'm not marking the studies of others, but I say make up your own mind, do your own investigation. And I'm like, you could say, an history profiler since I was 11. So I think I know a few things when I see them, and I know how to read. I know what one reads and what one wishes to interpret, but I know when interpretations go sideways. That's called a transliteration. In the Anunnakian tablets, I went through Anton Parks, Zachariah Sitchin, most of all, also important, Sasha Lessin, Anunnaki False Gods, and other books he has written. And I listened to audiobooks and audio recordings, different ones, of the story of ENLIL and ENki and Marduk, that called himself Amun-Ra, but he wasn't of the Ra priesthood, nor had he had anything to do with the Ra social memory complex, as in doing it right. Jesus, I always wondered, why is he called Jesus, as in Hail Zeus? What's the lineage here of the Messiah being related to a Zeus, or a Zeus descendant, or if he's even the reincarnation of Zeus? Who knows? Stories that took place in the past are to us now a mystery. I want you to pay attention to that. You don't know that, you haven't been there, and you can't translate literally, but you can find a time frame. And here's where the occult science comes in a psychic mind to read properly the script. So I'll give you an example of a story that was not quite as it was told. And I've experienced that myself. That's why I'm not influenced. I look for confirmations before I lean out. And that might take years. And I'm not doing that to challenge anybody. It's like, challenge yourself, do your own investigations. So do Billy Carson, do Anton Parks, do Sasha Lessin, do Zachariah Sitchin. Listen to the audio files that are on YouTube about the Anunnakian epos. And look at parallels where things make sense to you. And then look how it's being interpreted by what's globally known or commercially out there. So, and that must be questioned. So I'll give you an example. I went to Egypt in 2001, and I looked at one of the sites on the wall, hieroglyphs, showing the glorious battle of Ramses II, how he has defeated the Hittites. They had wheels with spokes like kind of blades, and the Hittites were on foot. It was a massacre. It wasn't glorious. It wasn't, won with no problem. Is how it was depicted, that he kind of reigned over this and kind of at no loss defeated the Hittites. Well, when I asked the folklore guys, the Arabic folklore, the storyteller of what really took place, And this is where it gets interesting. Also, side notes, in the Arabic folklore, there's a tale about the Great Flood coming over the pyramids, meaning the pyramids were, according to folklore, built before the Great Flood. Who caused the Great Flood? And who is Methuselah actually, and who is Noah, in which we are children of? And this gets really, really, really deep, so pay attention. And this is part one. I had to, sorry, mosquitoes here. I had to prepare myself to really come correctly with that, to not skip. It's like Sherlock's homeboy. Like, you have to look at the evidence and then present what you have. And I want you to come to your own conclusion. So don't believe anything that I say. Do your own investigation. Feel into the resonance of what I'm transmitting. And why I'm here is I focus not on who's who or who said what, or, you know, esoteric industry with this click there, Gaia over here, I don't know, Hulu over there, what's the other one called? Vimeo, like Rumble. There are clicks, there are scenes, there are platforms. Not everybody's talking to everybody, you know, not everybody's fond of everybody. I'm listening to what's out there. And it's okay. We are replaying what we probably have played with the fall of Atlantis. Same shit, you know, we're playing it again. And I'm looking at play out. Mission is to concentrate on the mission, to not be aggressive, to listen to what information is being propagated. There was a guru in the 90s, and she said that the human race is roughly 560 million years old. Parallel confirmation I got, they were called Terranusians. This planet was called Tara, not Terra. It was bigger. It was before the crash. You have to study the Anunnaki papers where an object crashed into this planet and broke. This is a broken off piece of this paradise world that was basically, we were in octaves. So imagine we were in the 12th bandwidth paradise planet, as in heavenly, peaceful, superhuman beings from our perspectives here. And we fell from that down the octaves, as in the densities, ending up in the lowest third, which is a long story. So 560 million years old, human angelic race, original blueprint, Adam Catman, 12-strand DNA, silicate, dormant, undetected by science today. You don't have the equipment to see it, but it's there, and we still have the potential. So, comparing the story of Ramses II and how he defeated the Hittites, I found out through folklore that it wasn't so. He nearly lost the battle. It was a bloodbath on both sides. He barely made it. It wasn't glorious. It was shameful, and it was all covered up for the later generations to believe it was all glorious. And that's how history, you know, it's not written by the losers. So history is written by those who've won. So of course, it'll look different for a winner. Interpretation, reflection, and it'll look different for the person that is at a loss. So here's where my suspicion comes in. And maybe people want to attack this. You know, I've been on YouTube over 15 years. If it's constructive criticism, I'm all for it. I'm all ears. I'm always open to learn. I'm never saying that I know it all. So here's what I found. I read about the ENki and ENLIL story, and it was so, even with the Terra papers, where it was so clean cut. Enlil, the bad guy, Enlil and his army, my brother, da-da-da-da-da. And Enki, the good guy, yeah, my brother thinks that I'm the devil because I da-da-da-da-da. So there was an argument going on. Well, I heard that argument. But before I go into the argument between Enki and Enlil, I'll tell you this, is what got me suspicious is very simple. what got me suspicious is so here's what got me suspicious. I'm reading basically about ENki, and there's lots of tales that got me kind of wondering, that didn't look so good for him. So one thing that was upsetting to read was there people differing between who he was. Some say he was Enlil's half-brother or a stepbrother. More and more I found out that ENki is actually half Draconian and half Syrian or something, and Enlil is like Lyran Syrian something, maybe a Pleiadian something. So Enlil is not Draconian at all, so it doesn't have, you can say, the bad blood or the bad genes. Then comparing the data, and trust me, there will be a second part where I'm interviewing my friend Ishmael, who dropped parallels. And I'm about the mission and the story and what do you have to say and how can I put the pieces together, because that's important to me. So then I read in Sasha Lesson's book that ENki was kind of jealous, had arguments with family, brothers, like almost everybody, even within her sack, who's supposed to assist him in making the genetic experiment. And that he took his granddaughter as a wife. And that's when I'm like, okay, now I'm beginning to not like this guy. This kind of, royal crown, pure blood procedure. Now it gets kind of like incestuous, and I don't like that. So I'm like, it gave me the creeps. And usually when my gut tells me something, I follow that. And this is, I haven't been there. The story is a mystery. I haven't lived it. I have no proof. It's what I'm reading. So I'm putting a marker there and saying, okay, here Mary's granddaughter. But it's all the way it's described, and I don't know, him lusting. I mean, nothing wrong with love and being in love and having attraction, but it was kind of like weird how he was described in a way where I'm like, okay, it's getting a little bit sick here for me. And then further, I hear an audiobook on YouTube, and I went through several because sometimes he will transliterate, but there were storylines where, the Niburians, whatever. The storyline, Nibiru coming to Earth, they landing, they mining gold to fix the atmosphere. Their planet has a leak in the atmospheric ring, and so they're mining gold, but it's a struggle. The Igigi, as in the astronauts in the Abzu, which is now called Africa, are complaining that is a struggle. I'm also believing that the Niburians were taller. Extraterrestrials probably had more chromosomes, were taller. So attractive to females on Earth is in the Bible, how they took earthly girls, left their own. That all has to do with the fall and the fall of command and Lucifer and what you want to call Satan. It's all a mix and mesh. So then I hear in an audiobook that Enlil said, I advise against the plan of ENki to create a race out of the original race, the angelic human and primitive hominids, to make them less psychic and have them more controllable. And ENki was about to downgrade. But not only that, he was a genetic experimenter. And some people believe, he's the God because he created us. Make no mistake, the God of the Bible, if you want it to be ENki, if you will, is not your creator. He's not source. He doesn't represent that. He dabbled with genetics that were already given, and he worked against the divine plan. He had an argument with Enlil, where Enlil was actually against that. And it's in the interesting storyline is, as in the empires that were based on, ENki, Babylonian, Mesopotamian, Roman, they all fell. Everything that ENki had created kind of fell, interestingly. Then I also hear that ENki rebelled against the Niburian Council. They were against that. Still, him sneaking his genetic experiments and being obsessed with that and not listening to the divine plan, which everybody advised against. So interesting. So in that light, Enki doesn't look that good. Not he's going to return or restore the God, the angelic you in you. No, he was about, so I hear, AI, as in cold, soulless control the population. And that's how you would run business. So he was against basically Anu, he was against Enlil, and even Ninhursag, his sister, that worked with him, advised against it. He argued with her why the Niburians are struggling, they're tired of struggle, and if you don't want mutiny on Nibiru, you need to basically listen to him. He has the genetic plan to do that. Not only that, on a later note, when he had his son Marduk, who then took the name Ra, called himself Amun-Ra. The Bible to this day, at the end of the prayer, say Amen. That's based all hail Marduk. Amun-Ra, which is the false Ra. He used that name because that Ra priesthood was respected, revered, and was what people followed. These were the original keepers of the original knowledge, the Neteru or the Metu Neter, the original angelic human, 500 million years ago. Well, I'm not surprised when Michael Cremo finds a temple in front of Cuba where they did a land survey in a depth of 2,000 feet, and then they measure with the computer, go back in time when the water levels receded to that level, how far back in time do you have to go? Voila, a temple that looks like the Tikal pyramid, like a sun temple, which I think these were airports, intergalactic airports, was built according to the sea level at least 176 million years ago by fully developed prototype angelic humans with higher knowledge and wisdom. And this high-tech society is not some from elsewhere, out of nowhere, and the missing link to the monkey is not there because Enki kind of came in there. I call it extraterrestrial intervention, and basically crossbred monkeys with angelic humans. Hence, you have 87% of the people are having partially rhesus monkey DNA in them. Do your own DNA tests. I mean, right now we're that far, this can be proven that some of you might be 2% Neanderthal, some have 3% monkey, like rhesus. Rhesus means monkey. So anybody that's positive has monkey DNA. So interestingly, they say that type O negative is a common blood type, which is BS as in belief system. Type O negative is the rarest blood type on this planet. And the royals tried to get in. They didn't have that because they were reptilian. And reptilians are not type O. They're a completely different bloodline. And that's why type O is the universal donor. Type O means original angelic without monkey DNA in it. Well, that doesn't make you better than anybody else. We all have angelic traits. We're all just been mixed and muddled up. So 87%, if not even more, some say even 93%, is all mixed with mammalian DNA. We were downgraded. So hence the fall. Well, Poseidon, the ruler of Atlantis, Trident, the fork, the devil, Satan. But then again, it went wrong and Atlantis actually sank. So if Poseidon is Enki, then Poseidon has what planet associated to it? Neptune. What is Neptune associated with? Hurricanes and earthquake. So we need to remember the planetary code that these gods were given, that were actually extraterrestrials with superpowers. If you look at the Babylonian gods, they hold freaking lions. These statues hold lions in their arms, and you can see it's a lion, like they're cats. So these dudes must have been 20, 30 feet tall. So go back in time, go back into the documentation. Well, Enlil, interestingly, if Enlil is, so I think is Zeus, pardon me, trying to preserve the original bloodline, always against his brother, not really liking the plannings, he created half-gods like Hercules, Perseus, and many others. And what in the Greek mythology are these demigods, these original half-gods? What are they fighting? Monstrosities, things that terrorize the planet. So here you have Enki creating empires that fall all the time, interestingly, just a point of observation. And here's Enlil creating demigods to defeat the monstrosities that Enki had created. And Enki always dabbled. There was an era in Atlantis when Enki, and it's in the tablets, you can read it. And I even read tablets that are not even published, just putting it in the translator and just looking at what does it say. That dude made mistakes where things backfired, like centaurs and others, but monstrosities as ugly, you even don't want to mention it, and history doesn't want to mention it. Of course, the winners and the orders that kind of wrote the clay tablets were not trying to reveal all of this, but it's in the tablets. It's not so revealed. It's how we want to read it. How do we want it to be true? And we still have a gene in us. We don't want to hear the truth. We don't, so we want to be Enki, the savior of Earth and blah. But, it never ends well. Look at The Last Jedi. Was it called The Last Stand or whatever? With Lord Sidious being a necromancy AI run corpse that it never ends well. It turns into darkness. It's not good. And we are at this precipice, at the crossroad where we have to decide how you're going to use AI, because it's been used against you before. And that was under Enki. Enki was the one, the continuous misuse of him and abuse of technology led to Atlantis sinking. Not only that, it is now also known that Enki, half Draconian, half Lyran Syrian probably, and then his brother Enlil creating basically sons, giants that fight the monstrosities. There's a battle going on with the gods, and it all turned mythology, but this was all extraterrestrials, families disagreeing amongst each other. And I'm seeing, to me, Enki looks like the disagreeable one, and Enlil looks like the agreeable one. Zeus. That's who Zeus is. Hence the name Jesus or Jesus. So the story of the Messiah is way bigger than the Bible, basic instruction before leaving Earth, depicts. So once you go into the apocryphic texts and go deeper to understand what's going on, Enki doesn't look so good. And Enlil kind of looks a little bit better. But they're trying to basically badmouth the good guy, and some wise people, and I spoke to people like Arabic people that spoke like smart people, 7 languages. They say you're being fooled by those who reverse history. They make the good look bad and the bad look good. And then the believer doesn't know what to believe in anymore because they're not psychic enough, and they know that. You're not reading with your psychic mind what's really going on. First of all, you're not here to worship anybody. This is an old genealogy that was put in you to pre-program you to accept the BS, again, hence the belief system they put before you, to distract you and have you run by other forces. But when you use your psyche, you build your dormant DNA and you get back to what's what. So listening to the resonance of what I'm saying, because here's the thing, this doesn't get me any trophies, this doesn't get me any ins, this doesn't get me favorable speaker positions. I'm about the mission and the truth and the story that needs to be corrected, because we cannot, I know that I'm Arcturian, but I don't have, people say, they got to call this entity or that entity. And then I had a connection with an ultra-terrestrial intelligence that was clearly stating you are so caught up in these storylines, Anunnakis, who's the good, who's the bad. You're still playing the game of them. And it is time to leave that loop, to leave that game by understand Enlil, Osiris, Isis were the good guys. They were the Brotherhood of Light, and the Council of 12 will always be the 12 because they're eternal beings. There's no downgrading or 2 or 3 leaving and all of a sudden it's the Council of 6. How people create the human storyline and mangle up storyline baffles me. There are certain things and cosmic laws that govern this universe and the multi-universe that are unchanged because they are forever. They are infinite. So Enki, basically through his son Marduk, who was also later on called Baal or Beelzebub, which is the original Satan, that's the bad guy. And it wasn't a demon, it was a tyrannical extraterrestrial that took liberties by trying to overthrow the Naburian Council. And that's how the story with Superman and General Zod takes place, where the Zod overthrows the council, actually, has infiltrated, took over, And Superman in the end has to defeat General Zod. Abel, Cain, Superman, Zod, Enlil, Enki. It is always the story of the two brothers, and one is actually not a good guy, but you have to know who. And I read how Enlil tried to actually preserve the genetic bloodline originally. So he wasn't the one who went into the garden where the kettle was kept. It was, no, actually he was. Put it this way, he's the one who kind of like inspired us that we are actually powerful and way more powerful than any extraterrestrial entity that you'll ever channel when you activate your 12-strand DNA. Go back 500 million years and try to reimagine yourself. Human, light manifests in the body. You are creator gods, all of us, and we're dormant, we're asleep. And when we wake up, these storylines will be corrected and things will fall apart, and everything built on a false narrative will fall apart. It's not going to go anywhere. And as you listen to storylines out there, you have to see, you know, I can give you whatever awards, from Grammy to Schmammy to whatever, the ET awards, whatever you want to make this show. What is this about? It's about the mission to correct the story, to not lose yourself in the plot of what's being propagated. And then figure out, how can we turn this system back on? How can we turn our systems with the right and just assisting spirit tech turn back on? Same thing with AI. Use metaphysics with AI and you'll be amazed what you'll find, like Egypt reimagined, temples reconstructed, DNA pattern resequenced. Imagine a human with a 12-strand DNA, or show me Egypt as it has never fallen. Like the things that you understand is we have the knowledge, but it's fragmented and it's all over the place. But it's there, it's out there. So I can say the AI, show me as if Superman is actually Elohim, but he's Middle Eastern, and the original construct, what would that dude look like? And then you get comic book character that looks completely different from what is portrayed. It's so interesting. So I play with that to look at what we're missing, what's nobody asking. I mean, who uses a computer to a system to show me a banana that looks like a spaceship? Like the nonsensical questions that we ask to things that are at hand and at our service shows the level of density. And I'm here to more clarify that we have to look at the facts and look at what's really, really there, and really listen to what's being spoken, and then figure out that the original bloodline, Zeus, Osiris, Isis, so Seth, who tried to tackle Osiris, is because he had an issue with who's the original heir to the throne. I got that from my man Ish. But I agree, because I have data that actually confirms that everybody who was heir to the original bloodline was in danger. Well, hence Horus, who avenged Osiris and actually defeated Seth. And Seth is Marduk, Amun-Ra, which is the false Ra, the false god. Read Sasha Lesson, Anunnaki, false god, to really see the plot in the family is very twisty with Enki, and gets very like negative, where it's like, dude, Enki, you're not scoring here, you're not getting points. And if people don't read and just wildly go out there and channel everything, I question that, and so should you. So I'm saying that in my perspective, the narrative is in reverse. And this could be with the tablets, the story was put in reverse, so you won't find your way home. You need your psyche to find your way home. Hence also sometimes when planets are in retrograde, that means you need to trust not things as they go, you need to trust yourself, your inner. And that's important, to recalibrate what's going on with you so you really see the truth. And for that you need your psyche. There's a book called Occult Science that shows that what's your feeling telling you? What's your gut feeling telling you? What's the direction of where is this going, you know? So I gave you the comparison, I gave you the data. Very significant in this one audio file where Enlil had a hefty argument, like really like like basically, yo, bro, I'm against this. You're going against the divine plan. You're dabbling with genetics, you know. ENki, you know, you saw the movie Oppenheimer, how when a scientist is obsessed with something, he's beyond. Whether he realized that he's a destroyer of worlds, as quoted, they're obsessed with bringing that to a success without considering the aftermath of what has been created. You know, what is that doing what's the service to the planet with you creating that, knowing the capacity? And, you know, we had people channeling negative energies in. You have seen UFOs coming in, shutting off nuclear missile silos, dismantling nuclear warheads in flight. What does that tell you as a future race and where we're going? What does that tell you? Atom, the word atom, the god Atum, the creator god, for henceforth creation brings forth the sun, atom, atomos, translation, which cannot be divided. Why are we destroying microsuns still? Creating a necroverse, that is the unlight, as in the fallout after a nuclear, explosion, the fallout. Every life, every biological life is systemically destroyed after that. While we're doing testings with those things, it's all ENki crap. Upsetting tectonic plates. Knowing if we trigger the right angles at, say, Andreas Vault, and I don't care if you're in Nevada or whatever, you're out in the sea, if the right angle and the right plate is triggered, the oil that we're pumping is the coolant for the magma of the plates that move, we will accelerate a change where possibly in geology, and scientists have shown this, we can lose 65% of land mass with waterways coming in, should the tectonic plates move. You know, when tectonic plates move together, it's going to kind of look like this. And then this happens. Land rises and land drops off. So we know that Fiji is sinking and Hawaii is rising. So if that's accelerated, and let's say Earth axis, as Nostradamus predicted in 1555, a smidgen, look at the displacement map that Dolores Cannon has shown of where our land mass will be. And again, the human race has to recalibrate. So here, the flood was sent by ENLIL. And it was sent by ENLIL. He had the technological power to reset the genealogy of this planet, to preserve the angelic human race, to recalibrate, to come back in this ascension process. And then all of those so-called gods, the big dudes, all left because they didn't want to get caught in the karmic planetary cycle that we're in, which is very hard. And we've been in this millions of years. I mean, according even to the Gita, the breath of Brahma is 400 million years. I'm not surprised that we are older than 500 million years as in genealogy. Not even talking about the conception of when the human bipedal vessel was actually conceived by what entity to carry a soul, to explore life. You see how deep this is going? In one book I read that just the concept of this here is 76 trillion years old. So you can't even begin to fathom that. So also my thing that I have to say to the correctional manner of the Egyptian pyramids. The Egyptian pyramids, some of them, not all of them, are millions of years old. They're not tombs. They were healing and reactivation chambers. So before ENki, we extraterrestrials in human form, and all of you are, you just don't remember, we would mummify, and it's depicted in, look at Paleo-Mexican Contact, what they find, mummified in a chamber like a stasis, so when you return, the body could be reactivated. And what came in, Mayas, Aztecs, Egyptians, the same thing that came with an ENki and his son Marduk, Amun-Ra, trying to overthrow everything else on this planet, which they did. We're kind of running this year, we're coming out of it. Disemboweled the mummies, destroyed the vessels, dried them out, and made sure, with the most powerful ones, with a sarcophagus that's 50 tons heavy and a lid that's 7 tons, they would never return. Erich von Däniken, kind of nicked on that, but not going further. I'm going psychically in there, as in I'm channeling and scrying it out. Some of the stuff was sealed with magic writings for them to never return. What is it that somebody tried to prevent to return? The right and just knowledge. Enki messed up a lot of things. Even the Templar Knights were the descendant of the bloodline of Zeus. They were not for Enki. They were all, the others that wrote the Gnostic texts. They all were killed by saying the God you pray to is a false god. It's a tyrant. It's a demiurge. It's mentioned in books, but we're not paying attention. So the Templar Knights, where everybody hunts the treasure that they protecting, and the Maya say the same thing. You descendants of a slave race that have been manipulated. I'm wording that now. It's not exactly how it goes. You forgot that the treasure, that your true treasure is not the gold and the diamonds. It's the knowledge, the original knowledge that got lost, that you inherit. And it's coming back and it's returning. So the Templar Knights were the protector of the original bloodline in the original knowledge. Hence they connected with Jesus, Jesus, as in he's Zeus, as in hail Zeus. There's a derivative of that Messiah carrying that name, of that bloodline. Has nothing to do with Draconians or reptilians at all. They're here to mess up the construct. That has all to do with what came in from Enki, Ea, Poseidon, and whatever names he chose to manipulate us, you know. And with the sun to overthrow governments and rule and control and use and abuse crystalline technology and AI against the human race to enslave everybody. Because he thought that's the power, and he is not coming back to redeem himself or anything of that nature. If you believe in that narrative, where does that lead you? So I want you to make up your own mind. Don't believe what I'm saying. Get into your own resonant frequency of what are we listening to, what's being shown. So also with Enki, sacrifice was introduced. The Templar Knights had the mother goddess and the deities that were female. They had to preserve that. This was all relinquished. All the female shamans and female goddesses. I mean, who survived Aphrodite? And what female, Kuan Yin? The strongest ones, but there were hundreds of female goddesses that were cherished and worshipped to hold the balance in the universes and the feminine energy. Or Enki just did it all. This is where this patriarchal, Apollonistic awaiting of a Messiah that never returns society was built upon, an illusion of something that's a religio that you have to rely on jinn, religion, like a jinn that is a false entity that gives you false knowledge and gives you a narrative to keep. It's like hopium. It keeps you at a level where you won't develop. You have enough hope, but you will never break free from what I've created. And an octave that low that you will reincarnate, and almost like as if the soul is being recycled because you don't remember who you are. Because the minute you all know the movie Total Recall, if you remember who you are, you can make a right and just choice and go home naturally, or make this home so we can ascend properly. And we're going through this. It's like a little bit like the Crossroads. It's going to be another movie show, another star who has the most views, who has the most flamboyant storyline out there, and waves the flag of whatever to follow. It's like I said, you don't have to follow anything but yourself. This is what ENLIL, where this comes in. Interestingly, also what Jesus said. We got to go from the Bible outside is don't follow me. Don't do what I do. I'm with you, I'm in you, I'm all around you, I'm everything. You follow your path. And that's what I believe. You don't have to follow anybody. Inner guidance, higher self. I channel my oversoul, higher self, ×2, guided through my inner intuition. No other channel that comes in suggests anything to pray outside of myself is beneficial. So when people need to pray to something external, you are giving your power away. You need to see where you are with your power. The Godhead in you, Greg Braden, the book, The God Code. It says in the Gattaca Code, God Elohim eternal within the body. You are the source. Respect the unseen that is the all creation of that you are within, that you are blessed with. And that's the way back. And that's the only narrative that counts to bring you home. And no promises, and watch out for these promises that never take place. You know, it was said, you will know who's who by the fruits of their labor. And it's not about Lamborghini, Rolls Royce, or the bling, the bigness, and all of this stuff. It's not about that. And you can have all of this. Our right and just mind will be seen in the auric field, as in as you plant your strawberries, they'll grow and prosper and people are nourished. As you plant your apple trees, the same thing. But a rotten seed will never make a tree with healthy fruit. And if you watch people by what they do, and you go past the illusion of social media, and I have 10 million views tomorrow, that can mean anything or nothing. I'm looking at how many people have an ill in their life, how many people got better, wellness baseline got better, made a better choice, own some land, create something for a community, build something, people are better. That's beyond of what is being shown, mostly in social media. And that is where the reward is if you want to feel that there is a high governance that regulates all of this. So all I'm saying is look at what's being propagated again. We've been warned in the crop circle, beware of the bringer of false hope, bearing false gifts. Be very clear about that. And what I'm giving you is not a sales pitch. You don't need to get anything from my store, you know. This is me freely sharing with you how I feel. So again, if you're interested, you know, if that rings your bell, do your own investigation and check the narrative of the Anunnaki and gods and the battles and the upsets. Realize Enki was trying to overthrow Anu, the Naburian Council. He was against ENLIL. They were not clear. This wasn't all peace. And Enki wasn't a rebel to set the record straight and make it right. He messed up. And the monstrosities that were created, the falsities of human vessels not fully formed, souls fragmented, couldn't come in fully, so monsters were created. Like in the Beowulf saga, Grendel, who was like half dragoon, and half human, but he was a cripple. He hated his father. Look at the narratives and go into the folklore. Like I'm kind of also a little bit like, if a scientist only has the science and a pyramidiologist turns into a pyramidiot, you're lost in the three-dimensional aspect of yourself, not using your psyche. You need to combine folklore with the science. You need to look at the parallels. Like if the Kogi and other natives in Peru have songs about a mountain range that didn't exist, where there was a riverbank, and then you geomap that and you're like, that was 60 million years ago. How does oral tradition know of a song of an existing landscape that was that 60 million years ago? We have to rethink human race. We have to rethink human history. We have to go extreme human antiquity. Google the Garuda bell, a bell that's between 9 million or 20 million years old, that was found, formed with Garuda sitting on it, like manufactured, you know. And Michael Cremo has mentioned that you find an artifact that's older than the narrative of the consensus. After the guy who found that stuff dies, they scribble out the zeros and make the years smaller so they don't lose their title because of their findings and their proof. And so it's all about egoic, masculine, again, rulership that's based on Enki and Marduk. It's the wrong direction to go to. If something is found and you can say it's 100, like this hammer, the fossilized hammer where everybody wants to debate, that's 165 million years old, roughly, correct me when I'm wrong, but it's in the millions. There shouldn't be a debate. The evidence should be put up, and we should work together and understand, inner stand, outer stand, overstand the narrative of what really takes place, and put that in a frame of reality check. And then we know what direction to go to. And then we know what to follow, because big stations, TV, broadcasts, whatever, esoterics have been fooled before. And I'll tell you how you've been fooled. When somebody has nothing but words and they can bake no bread or produce nothing, bring nothing forth, have nothing to show for, no craft, question that. If I have a recipe and I can make a cake from that and it's successful and it works and I can feed people, I trust that. But if I have a narrative of something that I can't prove, or if something seems so fixed and so looped and it doesn't go anywhere but a narrative, then you have emptiness. And these void pockets, be very careful, watch out for that. Where does that lead you? Where is this going? And those who do your studies, if it's the Quran, the Talmud, or Bible studies, whatever you're into, there has to be progress in what's being studied. Knowing the words, knowing the chant, knowing how to set the record straight. And that's why I'm calling myself Arcturus Ra, as in the light from Arcturus, as in Ra, the original light formation, the original light direction, without any attachments or labeling or deities towards that from the Ra priesthood, correcting the pattern the way light communicates within the cell in the body. So the path is corrected. And you, again, have free will, can make your choice. This is for me or this is not for me. And this has to be shared within clarity, not mumbling, and where everything else is going. As you can see, the music industry is all over the place. Nobody knows what's a trend anymore. See, I'm a rapper. I see from where he came from, the original creation to mimicry and money and riches and materialism. And there's nothing wrong with that. But don't lose your purpose in the plot. Don't lose your purpose in this Maya, in this illusion that you're living. Because things come and things go. But what's eternal is eternal. And also, on the end node, EMC square is also a foolish attempt of a finite mind to create energy by splitting an atom, as in suns. Nityananda said that, and I say it again. If E is intensity and MC is continuity, the human race has not managed to store energy without killing the continuity is killed. No electricity, nothing is flowing. And we diminish the intensity. So we can store this much, but what we're storing consumes. But if you know the river out there, the cosmic river of energy, and for that you need an infinite mind, you know how to not diminish the intensity. You take a little bit and you preserve the continuity. And that's when free energy will be developed. Whether we reverse engineer it by our findings and understandings, or we come to the conclusion to do it ourselves. Same thing with the Big Bang is also BS, again, belief system. The Big Bang is an ongoing thing. The universe is infinite. It was and forever will be. For a scientist to say, well, it's 9 billion years old, that's a finite thought creating an end to things, and it's a foolish attempt to think that you can determine how old the universe is. Maybe a planet, roughly, but you can't see further than your eyes will take you. That's the simple equation why amoebas are not architects that build city complexes. Everything has a job assignment, every consciousness in its place at its time, and power given in time to what's fathomable. No more, no less, and this will never change. All that is summed up, quintessentially, even Zeus, when you study the scriptures and the Greek mythology, played games, disguised himself to get the woman that he was into. So all of those gods, so-called gods or superior beings, so it seemed, came with game because they knew they could. They had more developed powers, we call it magic. Even the one they called Jesus could perform miracles to influence the masses. Now it's time for you to realize the Godhead and the own Messiah within you, and activate that within that you are complete, and realize that. So I gave you an analogy of what's good, what's bad. You know, it could be reversed, it could be mirrored, it could be corrupted. And you know, the story of the hero is always more glorified than actually what's going on. But now we're facing reality. The reality, or humanity. Take a sip. Take that in. And come, see if the wind confirms it, to the sense of self with you. And all of that you observe, you're the Godhead. You evaluate at the end of the day. None is above you. You're all a spark from a big spark of light, experiencing itself. That's neither he or she, it's everything. And when that sinks in, pick your favorite actor, pick your favorite God. Make sure they make sense. Make sure they're not corrupt. That's all I'm relaying to you. And that's for part 1. No politics, no discrimination, no naming names, who's bad, who's good. We all do our job, and you all are appreciated. I just wanted to share that with you. Develop different angles and perspectives to what's being propagated. And then find your truth, not the hype. That's the bottom line. I most certainly will see you on the flip side.